Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are turning our attention to a figure who is, well, honestly, it's hard to even know where to start.
The superlatives just keep piling up.
They really do. We're talking about a man who was recently voted the greatest actor of the 21st century. This was a 2024 ranking by The Independent.
And not just that, the New York Times called him perhaps the most ambitious and widely admired American actor of his generation. That's a heavy mantle.
It is. We are talking, of course, about Philip Seymour Hoffman.
And it is a heavy topic, but it's an incredibly rich one. I think what makes Hoffman such a compelling subject for a deep dive isn't just, the awards or the filmography.
Although both are staggering.
Both are completely staggering. But it's the paradox he represented. Here was a man who looked, by all accounts, like a totally ordinary guy. He wasn't your chiseled, typical leading man, and yet he became a cinematic titan.
Exactly. That's the anti-star paradox we really need to get into, because when you look at his career, he's playing these characters that are often uncomfortably real. Misfits, creeps, lonely guys. And he famously described the act of acting as torturous. He didn't make it look easy. He made it look costly.
That is such a key distinction. For him, acting wasn't a playground, it was a crucible. And our mission today, looking through this stack of biographies and articles, is really to unpack that philosophy. We want to understand why he gravitated toward that darkness, his incredibly intense work ethic, and
of course, the tragedy of his untimely death.
Exactly.
It's going to be a journey. I mean, this is a guy who could play a grubby storm chaser in Twister and then turn around and play this charismatic, terrifying cult leader in The Master. The range is it's baffling.
He was often called the Jesus of uncool.
The Jesus of uncool. That feels oddly specific.
It is, but it fits, doesn't it? It's a descriptor that's kind of stuck to him because it suggests that he took the thwarted, twisted, uncool parts of humanity.
The parts we usually try to hide.
Exactly. The clumsiness, the desperation, and he ennobled them. He gave them dignity. In a way, he sort of died for our social sins on screen.
I love that.
Yeah.
So let's rewind. Let's go all the way back to Fairport, New York.
Yeah.
Because before he was the Jesus of uncool, he was just Phil, a kid who loves sports.
Yeah.
And this is the part that always surprises me. He wasn't a theater kid initially. He was a jock.
He was. Born in 1967, grew up in the suburbs of Rochester. His passion was wrestling and baseball. He was an athlete. And honestly, if you look at his acting style later in life, that physicality never really left him. He used his body like an instrument.
Often a blunt one.
A very blunt one.
Yeah.
But the pivot point, the moment the universe sort of shifted for him, happened when he was just 14.
The classic injury narrative. It seems like so many artistic careers start with a door just slamming shut.
It is the classic trope, right? He suffered a neck injury, and it ended his wrestling and baseball ambitions pretty much instantly.
Just like that.
Gone. Suddenly, this huge outlet for all his energy and his physicality was just gone. I mean, imagine being 14, you're pumped full of testosterone and competitive drive, and suddenly you can't hit anything, you can't grapple with anyone.
And his mom, Marilyn O'Connor, who sounds like a force of nature, by the way. She was a teacher, then a lawyer, then a family court judge.
Wow.
She was a lifelong theater enthusiast. So with sports out of the picture, she encourages him, hey, why don't you join the drama club?
Though, let's be honest, Hoffman himself admitted later that his initial motivation wasn't exactly artistic purity.
Never is.
He joined because he had a crush on a girl in the club.
As all great careers begin, it's relatable. You go where the cute girl is.
You do.
But something happened, right? It wasn't just about the girl for very long. There was this miracle moment he talked about.
Yes. This is crucial. At age 12, a couple years earlier, he had seen a production of Arthur Miller's All My Sons. And even though he was young, it just did something to him. He was transfixed.
He used a specific quote, didn't he?
He did. He later said, I was changed, permanently changed. It was like a miracle to me. So when he finally stepped onto the stage himself after that injury, that memory of the miracle was just waiting for him. Acting became the new container for all that intensity he used to put into wrestling.
It's fascinating to think about that transfer of energy. Wrestling is all about leverage, weight, struggle.
Yeah.
And his acting always felt like a struggle, in the best way possible.
That's a very astute observation. He was not a neck-up actor. He threw his weight around, quite literally. He eventually went to the New York State Summer School of the Arts in Saratoga Springs, and this is a crucial little nugget of history.
Okay.
That's where he met Bennett Miller and Dan Futterman.
Oh, wow. the guys who would eventually write and direct Capote.
The very same. They were teenagers together. So these relationships that would define his Oscar-winning moment decades later were forged in those early summer drama camps.
That's amazing.
It speaks to the loyalty he had. He then went on to NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, graduated in '89, and co-founded a troupe called the Bolstoy Ensemble. He was serious about this from early on.
But serious doesn't mean rich. I think people forget the hustle. After NYU, he's not walking red carpets. He's working at a deli.
The classic New York actor struggle. He was checking coats, making sandwiches, working customer service jobs. He was living the life of the characters he would later play, working class, a little bit invisible.
That period of anonymity has to be so important for an actor.
It's everything. Once you're famous, you can't observe people anymore because everyone is watching you. But back then, at the deli, he was just soaking in humanity.
So he gets his first screen debut in 1991 on Where Else? Law and Order.
Of course. A rite of passage for every New York actor. If you haven't been a suspect or a dead body on Law and Order, do you even act in New York?
He played a man accused of rape in an episode called The Violence of Summer, and then a film debut in something called Triple Bogey on a par 5 hole. Credited as just Phil Hoffman.
Right. He actually changed it to Philip Seymour Hoffman to avoid confusion with another actor. Seymour was his grandfather's name. It added a certain gravitas, don't you think?
It really does. Philip Seymour Hoffman sounds like someone you should listen to. It sounds like a statesman, not just an actor.
Exactly.
But the moment where Phil the Deli Guy became a working actor was 1992. Scent of a Woman.
This was the breakthrough. He played George Willis Jr., a spoiled, rich, private school student, and it was not handed to him. He auditioned 5 times for that role.
5 times. That seems like a lot for a supporting role.
It shows his persistence. He was working at the deli in between callbacks. He'd take off the apron, go read for the part, and then go right back to slicing turkey.
And the critics noticed him immediately. Ryan Gilbey from The Guardian noted that this role showed his skill for making unctuousness compelling.
Compelling unctuousness.
Yeah.
That is the perfect way to describe so many early Hoffman roles.
It's perfect. He's slimy, he's entitled, but you cannot look away. You kind of hate him, but you want to see what he does next.
And that film made $134 million. It was a massive hit. Hoffman later said, "If I hadn't gotten into that film, I wouldn't be where I am today." It allowed him to quit the deli.
He was officially a professional actor.
That financial freedom, just knowing your rent is paid, that changes an artist completely.
And then he just starts popping up everywhere. He becomes this ubiquitous character actor of the 90s.
He's in a zombie movie called My Boyfriend's Back. He's in The Getaway. And then there's Nobody's Fool in 1994.
Where he gets punched in the face by Paul Newman.
By his idol.
Can you imagine? I can't. You're a young actor, you idolize Paul Newman, and your big scene involves him clocking you. But Hoffman held his own.
And that really set the stage for the next phase, which I think is the defining phase of his artistic identity,
Right.
the Paul Thomas Anderson collaboration.
This is legendary stuff. They made 5 movies together. It started with Heart 8 in 1996, right?
Heart 8, yeah, which was also known as Sydney. Hoffman has this small role as a cocksure craps player.
Just a little part.
It wasn't a huge part, but the chemistry was there. You could see it. Anderson saw something in him, a willingness to go to the edge, a willingness to be unlikable.
Which leads us directly, and I mean directly, to Boogie Nights in 1997.
A cult classic and a massive shift in tone.
He plays Scotty J, the boom operator. He wears clothes that are just a little too tight. He's awkward, and he is desperately, hopelessly in love with Mark Wahlberg's character, Dirk Diggler.
This role is a masterclass in what we talked about earlier, ennobling the pathetic. Scotty J could have just been a joke. He's a complete, unabashed loser on paper. But you think about that scene where he tries to kiss Dirk Diggler.
Oh, it's painful. It's physically painful to watch. He bought the car. He's trying to show it off. You shake him.
It is. And Hoffman admitted he was terrified. He was heavy at the time. He had to sit there in his boxers, and he was afraid people would laugh at him. Not with the character, but at Philip.
And the director told him, they won't laugh at you.
And they didn't. Rolling Stone called it naked emotional neediness.
It's that vulnerability. He just wasn't afraid to be uncool. He wasn't protecting his ego.
And that is so rare. Most actors, even subconsciously, want to look good. They want the audience to think, wow, he's so cool. Hoffman seemed to have zero vanity when the camera was rolling. He just let the character breathe, even if the character had bad breath.
Speaking of vanity, or lack thereof, we have to mention Twister.
We do.
Because while he's doing this high-art indie stuff with Anderson, he's also Dusky, the grubby, hyperactive storm chaser. in one of the biggest blockbusters of the 90s.
It's so funny, a People magazine's survey of social media actually found that Twister is the film that general audiences associate him with the most.
Really? More than Capote? More than The Master?
Blockbusters have reach, and he was so much fun in Twister. He brought this chaotic, human energy that grounded the movie. It showed he could do the popcorn stuff just as well as the art house stuff.
He's eating, he's blasting music, he's talking about the suck zone.
He made Dusty iconic.
So we move into the late 90s, and he really leans into this master of misfits persona. He has this great quote. He said, "I didn't go out looking for negative characters. I went out looking for people who have a struggle and a fight to tackle."
That's the key. He didn't see them as villains. He saw them as people struggling. Even the worst people think they're the heroes of their own story, or at least the victims. Hoffman played that internal logic.
Let's just look at the lineup. 1998, The Big Lebowski. He plays Brandt.
The sycophantic assistant. Her life is in your hands, dude. That laugh, that tight, nervous laugh he does.
He's on screen for, what, 10 minutes total?
And he's unforgettable. He captures that specific type of corporate servitude perfectly.
And then Happiness.
Oh, Happiness. Todd Solondz's film. This is the deep end of the pool. If Twister is the shallow end, this is the Mariana Trench.
He plays Alan, a sexually frustrated loner who makes obscene phone calls. It is hard to watch. It's disgusting, frankly.
It's embarrassingly raw, to quote the critics. But again, critics point out the pathos. He wasn't just playing a monster. He was playing a human being doing monstrous things because of a deep, twisted loneliness. It's such a high-wire act.
If you slip, the audience just hates you and tunes out.
But Hoffman kept his balance. He made you pity the predator, which is a very, very uncomfortable feeling.
Then you pivot to the talented Mr. Ripley in 1999. He plays Freddie Miles.
A preppy bully.
A total 180 from the sad loner. Freddie is loud, obnoxious, wealthy, arrogant. He looks at Matt Damon's character with this utter disdain. You can feel the judgment radiating off him.
And Meryl Streep saw that performance.
Meryl Streep. She saw it and said, "Who is that?" She called him fearless for giving such an awful character respect.
When Meryl Streep asks, "Who is that?" You've made it. That is the ultimate stamp of approval.
Absolutely. And then just to cap off 1999, he does Magnolia, another Paul Thomas Anderson film.
And this time he's the good guy. Phil Parma, the nurse. It's arguably his most virtuous role. He's taking care of Jason Robards' dying character, Earl Partridge. He's trying to track down Earl's estranged son. He's just decent.
He's so gentle in that movie.
The Village Voice likened him to a guardian angel. It showed that he didn't just play creeps because that's all he could do. He could radiate pure empathy just as well.
So in the span of a year or two, he plays a phone sex creep, a preppy snob, and a saintly nurse.
The range is just showing off at that point.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But while Hollywood is falling in love with him, he never left the stage.
No, and this is so vital for understanding Hoffman. He considered the stage fundamental. It wasn't a stepping stone for him. It was the destination. He joined the Labyrinth Theater Company in 1995, and he stuck with them.
He wasn't just dropping in.
No, he eventually became co-artistic director.
And some of these Broadway runs, they sound exhausting just to talk about. In 2000, he does True West with John C. Reilly.
This is the stuff of theater legend. They alternated roles every single night. One night, Hoffman is Austin, the clean-cut screenwriter, and Reilly is Lee, the drifter thief. The next night, they switch.
That sounds like a recipe for a nervous breakdown.
They did 154 performances.
154.
Yes. The New York Times called it the best stage performance of his career. It requires you to know the play inside and out, to know your partner's moves as well as your own. It just destroys the ego because you are literally stepping into someone else's shoes every 24 hours.
And then, Long Day's Journey into Night, in 2003, he played the alcoholic son, Jamie Tyrone.
Another heavy, heavy role. The director, Robert Falls, noted that Hoffman ripped it up every night and he couldn't leave the role behind. This is where we start to see the cracks in the armor.
What do you mean?
He wasn't technical in the sense that he could just turn it off. He carried the despair of Jamie Tyrone out of the theater with him every night.
He also did Death of a Salesman later, in 2012. He played Willie Loman at age 44. Isn't that a little young for Willie Loman?
It is young. Willie is usually played as a man at the very end of his life. But Hoffman played him as a man burning out in real time. It was the highest grossing show in that venue's history. He brought a terrifying vitality to the exhaustion.
He also directed plays, right?
Ah.
Jesus Hopped the A-Train, Our Lady of 121st Street.
Yeah, he said switching hats helped him improve as an actor. When you direct, you have to see the whole picture. You realize that your character is just one piece of the puzzle. It made him a better collaborator.
Which brings us to the role that changed absolutely everything, the transformation, 2005, Capote.
This is what shifted him from greatest character actor alive to leading man titan. He played Truman Capote, writing in cold blood. This wasn't just a supporting role. The entire film rested completely on his shoulders.
And the physical transformation was just intense. He lost a ton of weight. And the voice, that high-pitched, unique Capote voice, it's iconic.
But he was very clear that he didn't want it to be an impression. Impressions are for Saturday Night Live. He spent 4 months researching, watching video clips, not just to mimic the cadence, but to find the vitality and nuances. He wanted to know why Capote spoke that way, how he held his hands to protect himself.
And he stayed in character constantly during filming.
Constantly. He said something really interesting about that. He said he stayed in character so he wouldn't give my body a chance to bail on me.
That is such a revealing quote.
Isn't it? It implies that the role was physically unnatural for him. He had to force his body, his jock body, remember, into this effete, delicate shape and hold it there by sheer will. If he relaxed, if he went back to being Phil for an hour, he was afraid he couldn't get the mask back on.
And it paid off. Best Actor Oscar.
Deservedly so. It proved he could carry a film. He wasn't just the spice you added to a scene, he was the main course.
And then, almost as a victory lap, or maybe just to have some fun, he does Mission Impossible 3rd in 2006.
Owen Davian.
The best villain in the entire franchise.
You think so? I would argue yes. Vanity Fair called it the most delicious black hat performance since Alan Rickman in Die Hard. He was so cold, he didn't shout, he just whispered threats, and you believed him completely.
There's that scene on the plane where he threatens Ethan Hunt's wife.
He says it so casually, like he's ordering lunch. It's terrifying.
And then we get this unbelievable run of masterpieces, 2007 to 2008. It's just hit after hit after hit. The Savages. Before the Devil Knows You're Dead.
And Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, he plays an embezzling realtor. And we have to talk about the opening scene. It opens with a really graphic sex scene between him and Marisa Tomei.
Again, that complete lack of vanity.
It's bravery. He was exposing himself, literally and metaphorically. He was playing a character who was drowning in debt and addiction, and he showed us the raw, ugly humanity of that. Then came Charlie Wilson's War. He plays Gus Avricottos, the CIA officer.
The shouting match with his boss in that movie is one of the best scenes in cinema history. He's got the mustache, the 80s hair, the gut. He breaks a window.
Vibrates with conspiratorial electricity. That was the review. He got an Oscar nomination for that. And another one for Doubt the next year.
Where he plays a priest accused of abuse. Again, all ambiguity. Did he do it? Did he not? He walked that line so perfectly, you never quite know the truth.
And we can't skip Synecdoche, New York.
Oh, man. This movie breaks my brain every time I watch it.
It breaks everyone's brain. It's Charlie Hoffman directing. Hoffman plays Caden Cotard, a theater director who tries to build a life-size replica of New York City inside a warehouse.
And his character just ages and deteriorates over decades on screen.
It's a film about death and decay and the impossibility of art. Roger Ebert called it the best film of the decade. Hoffman is playing a man who is literally falling apart, and he commits to that disintegration so fully. It's harrowing. You watch him rot on screen.
It really seems like he was drawn to these roles that required a piece of his soul. He kept taking chunks out of himself to give to these characters.
He was, and that culminated perhaps in The Master in 2012.
Back with Paul Thomas Anderson.
He plays Lancaster Dodd. Clearly modeled on L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, though they, danced around that legally.
Right.
He's charismatic, he's a charlatan, but he's also this weirdly compelling father figure.
Hoffman actually helped refine the script for this, didn't he?
He did. He suggested that the film should focus more on Joaquin Phoenix's character, Freddie Quell. He was generous like that. He realized that for Dodd to be effective, he needed a foil. He needed a disciple to manipulate and to love.
There's that scene where he performs a little jig. Just a little dance.
It's so surreal. They're at a party, and suddenly he breaks into the song, I'll Go No More A-Roving, and does a little jig. It's whimsical and terrifying at the same time. You see the madness in his eyes.
He won the Volpe Cup at Venice for that performance.
It is, in many ways, the absolute summit of his career.
And at the same time, he's becoming a household name to a whole new generation. He joins the Hunkamemes.
As Plutarch Heavensby. And he didn't phone it in. That's the thing. Sometimes serious actors do a franchise movie, and you can tell they're just there for the check. Hoffman brought gravity to it. He treated the material with the same respect he treated Chekhov.
He also directed a film around this time, Jack Goes Boating, in 2010.
A quiet, lovely little film about a lonely limo driver. He starred in it, too. It showed he had a really sensitive eye as a director. It wasn't flashy, it was just deeply human.
So on the surface, he is on top of the world. Oscars, blockbusters, directing, beloved by all his peers. But we have to talk about the private struggle. Because looking back now, the signs were there.
We do. Hoffman was very, very private. He famously said, "The less you know about me, the more interesting it will be to watch me."
He understood that celebrity kills the mystery that's required for acting.
It does. He had a partner, the costume designer Mimi O'Donnell, and 3 children. He tried to keep them out of the spotlight. He wanted to be a dad, not a star.
But there was an addiction narrative that went back a long, long way.
It did. He had struggled with drugs and alcohol at NYU. He recognized it early on. He went to rehab at age 22. And this is the part that is just so heartbreaking. He stayed sober for 23 years.
23 years. That is a lifetime. That's an entire career built on sobriety.
It is. He built his entire life, his family, his career on that sobriety. But addiction is a patient disease. In 2012, around the time of The Master, and you have to wonder if the darkness of the roles he was playing contributed, he relapsed.
It started with prescription pills, right?
Yes, it started small. Then it escalated to heroin. He went to rehab briefly in 2013. He was fighting it. He knew he was in trouble.
There's a quote from John le Carré, the author. Hoffman was filming A Most Wanted Man, which was based on his book, and le Carré observed something haunting about him on set.
Yes. Le Carré said that Hoffman's work was painful and exhausting, and that the world was too bright for him to handle. That phrase, too bright, it just chills you.
It does.
It suggests that this emotional transparency we loved him for, this total lack of skin, was also what made living in the world so difficult for him. He felt everything, and when you feel everything, sometimes you just want to numb it.
And then, February 2, 2014.
He was found in his Manhattan apartment, acute mixed drug intoxication, heroin, cocaine, benzodiazepines, amphetamines. It was ruled an accident. He wasn't trying to die. He was just trying to cope. He was 46.
46. That is just painfully young. He was in the middle of filming Mockingjay Part 2.
They had to rewrite scenes because he hadn't finished his. It was a logistical nightmare for the studio, but an emotional nightmare for the cast. He was also preparing to direct his second film, Ezekiel Moss.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had cast Amy Adams and Jake Gyllenhaal. He had so much more to do.
The reaction was, I remember it vividly. It felt like the air went out of the room. It wasn't like when a rock star dies and people say, oh, well, the lifestyle. People were genuinely shocked and devastated.
The industry was heartbroken. Kate Blanchett dedicated her BAFTA to him. Sam Rockwell dedicated his Oscar to him years later. It wasn't just, we lost a celebrity. It was, we lost one of the great ones. We lost the guy who set the bar.
There's a playwright prize named after him now, right?
The Relentless Prize, established by David Barkatz. It honors his dedication to the theater. It's fitting because relentless is the perfect word for his approach to finding the truth.
And a statue in Fairport, New York.
A local boy made good. He never forgot where he came from.
So when we look back at this legacy, Joel Schumacher had this great quote. He said, "The bad news is that Philip won't be a $25 million star. The good news is that he'll work for the rest of his life."
Schumacher was half right. He worked for the rest of his life, but that life was cut so tragically short. But the work remains. Empire magazine voted him one of the 50 greatest actors of all time in 2022.
He really was the anti-star. He proved you didn't need the jawline or the six-pack to be the most compelling person on screen. You just needed the truth.
He had this unique ability to make us look at people we would normally look away from, the perverts, the failures, the bullies, and somehow see ourselves in them. He forced empathy on us. That is a powerful, powerful legacy.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, for our listeners.
Yeah.
We started this by saying Hoffman described acting as torturous. He didn't enjoy the process because doing it well is difficult. It cost him something.
It did. And the question I'm left with is this. We, as an audience, we demand brilliance. We want to be moved. We want that emotional transparency. We want actors to bleed for us. But does true artistic genius always require such a heavy personal toll? Or was Hoffman's burden simply something he chose to carry for us so we could understand our own humanity a little better? Was he, in a way, a martyr for the art form?
That is something to think about. If you haven't watched a Hoffman film in a while, go back. Watch The Master. Watch The Talented Mr. Ripley. Watch Scent of a Woman. See the range, see the work.
See the miracle.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.